we've heard a little bit about digital infrastructure, data, where that's heading. Obviously, huge opportunities potentially with the rollout of AI, more data in the industry. So I wanted to pick up what we felt that meant, where the opportunities were, look at kind of the positives of AI and data coming in. So maybe, Thomas, let's just start with you briefly. Just in terms of data, where do you see this going? Where do you see the positives, I suppose, for the real estate industry more broadly?
Yeah, I think if you see real estate as a starting point, and I'm saying that for quite a while now, our data structures are on a pretty low level. They are still stuck in files, in Excel sheets. And if you also look at the industry structures, how many players are involved in managing data and creating any output? You have a property manager, a facility manager, asset manager, a fund manager, and then it goes to the reporting. And my feeling still is it's getting better. I don't want to be too negative, that there are so many efficiencies that you can get out of the structure and by managing this data or having this data first in a structured way and then managing this data properly, especially adding up with AI and potentially in the next step also with Gen AI. But let's step by step. AI would be the next step, and then Gen AI could do more.
Okay, good. And Lars, I suppose from your perspective, because you have a lot of experience in the industry as well, running other businesses, how do you think this is going to influence, particularly the investors, I suppose, and also the occupiers?
Well, there's a huge impact because there is a huge of new product coming into the investment market in reality. So that means if I'm an investor, as you know, I also work for an investment company, and thinking about in terms of new products and funds that need to be replaced, maybe from other products we saw in the past in the real estate industry. So it's a question, where is the capital now allocated? And I would rather definitely invest also know-how and brain into this new product, because the market is huge. It's driven by a regulatory, it's supported by a regulatory, and I'm sure when we sit here in, 4 or 5 years, the investment market will definitely be a different one, because this is driven by as I'm saying, it's always when you have the regulatory framework that supports this investment class and you have a rare resource, then it's only a matter of time investors will dig into this.
Okay, good. Martin, let's pick up with you. Just also a quick introduction, and I'm going to come and sit with you. That's what I'm going to do. So that then we can share a microphone. That's going to be better, isn't it? So for those who don't know, Martin, just give a kind of brief introduction, I guess, to NTrust, what you're doing here, and pick up that point about where you see some of the opportunities, because you're obviously drilling down into some of the more nitty-gritty areas, really, in terms of the real estate side.
Yeah, hi. So Martin Betts. I'm the Vice President for EMEA for NTrust Infotech. So NTrust, everything that's data in real estate is our business. That's how we see it. We've developed numerous AI components to help real estate organisations with their data. So I think it's interesting what my fellow panelists have mentioned, because I think one of the key things has been that people just don't have access to data, or if they do have access to data, they can't actually get anything from it because it's just delivered to them in numerous different formats. They just can't deal with it particularly well. But from an AI component, it is a bit of a game changer, because with certain elements of AI, you can actually start querying this unstructured data without the need for this whole data normalization, aggregation and validation. So there is things out there which allows every single person who is in the industry to say, I tell you what, I'm going to utilize AI to actually ask pertinent questions of their property data, specifically on their leases. So if you look at a lease, what you generally find is, what we find is 30% of that lease data that is in the lease is in their property systems. The other 70% is missing. It hasn't been abstracted because the systems just can't deal with that. It's too costly. But with AI, you can actually access 100% of that lease. So those really deep dive queries you may have within those clauses are available to the real estate industry. So at NTrust, what we're doing, we've developed AI to drill into the real nitty-gritty, to say, Richard, data. And it's not just about drilling into lease data, it's also utilising AI to normalise data as well, and then build AI to query the actual normalised data that's coming in. So it's a constant thing. I think at NTrust we do say AI isn't there to replace a human being. And I personally don't believe we will ever do that. It's there to help us. We're always going to need human beings because AI just doesn't have that human brain. It needs to be trained continually. And also, you have to remember, AI isn't always correct. It's not right all the time. It can only give you the answer if you've trained it to actually think about what the answer is. So giving the data required for AI to work is all important. And it then comes back to, have real estate companies actually got the data? They have, but they've got no idea actually. That's unfair. They struggle to deal with that amount of data every given month that they receive.
And that picks up a little bit the general theme around digitisation, around the kind of way that that's supporting the industry. So interested to get your views as well on that, Thomas and Lars, just in terms of how that may be used to either drive more efficiency, better returns, because ultimately that's how, if AI is going to be successful in the industry, if it's driving more efficiency, if it's driving better returns, everybody is going to adopt it.
Yeah, that's for sure. That's the target, and there is the potential in our industry to have to get closer to this efficiency gains, and also get smarter solutions. Yeah, as you said, it should not kick us out of our jobs, but partly it will lift us up in a different, let's say, in the higher level of jobs where we really need our brain and not just doing tiny Excel sheet data copy paste things. So that's for sure, and this potential is there. What I hear from clients pretty often is, yes, the startups are coming to us with big stories and great decks, but when it then comes down to the delivery of really this value, in 60-70% of the case, they are not there yet. They have to develop their solution. It takes time. And the second comment I always hear, or often hear, not always, often hear is, yeah, it's still, we are looking for the big solution for us, which is difficult because it's about the comfort level. Will this startup or this provider will be around for the next 2 or 3 years? What happens if they go wherever, insolvency or whatever, and they have our data? So these are the typical concerns I hear. But I hope that with AI we get closer. We need it, and again, there's so much room for growth for the end user, for the asset manager, for the property manager, whoever the client at the end of the day is, but also for the startups. And we just published last week our Tech for Impact map, because that was the idea that ESG will be a significant trigger for more data, which has to be provided from next year on, depending on the size of the company. But if you look at the CSRD rules, the accounting rules for an ESG, data must be provided. And it's not, at one point in time, it's not possible to use third-party data. It's a proxy. From one point of time, you need your real data. And that's hopefully a trigger, but then when it comes to a crisis, usually people are a bit reluctant spending money on things like this, which is not the right thing, because from an anti-cyclical point of view, people have time now. Still, in 12 months' time, potentially the markets are back, and then the time and the efforts are not possible anymore. So we should use the time, but I know, I'm advisor, it's easy to say, the delivery is a problem, and I still pretty often hear these concerns, as I said.
Okay, good. And Lars, interesting the point that was made there about the property manager, the asset managers within that, and the importance of data. We certainly had a session on ESG and impact where data was going to be a critical part of being able to deliver that going forward, and that will have big implications in terms of the values as well, how you can justify valuations. So do you see that as an important element of this, Lars? What's your sense of that?
Definitely. And I'm surprised when I look at the last 10 years, how many smart ideas have been grown. I think we have a lack of, so to say, support also from the authorities, from the government in Germany. The most of these ideas have been funded, as far as I know, by venture capital investors. And unfortunately, there are so many good ideas and startups who have great businesses ahead of them. And then it's always a question, how long do they survive? And unfortunately, I think in particular in Germany, and the big difference to the US, definitely, they die very often much too early because of funding needs, obviously. So in particular in real estate, I'm with you there. There is so much to do in terms of data processing, support of automation of certain data in each and every field. We had, years ago, we were sitting to go through each and every workflow, one company where I worked before, and maybe 90% of these startups are not existing anymore, although they had brilliant business models, but they all have this funding capital issue at the end of the day. And that's a big con, I would say, to start such ventures in Germany. Because as I'm saying, I know a lot of them, and they are usually short-term funded. And in particular, when the market goes down, most of them you don't see anymore, which is obviously not good for our industry. But there's a lot, in particular in the real estate world, there's a lot to do in this field. I think there we are, when you compare this also to other more developed industries in Germany, like the pharma, automotive, there we are in Germany it's called the Steinzeit, so 200 years ago or so, right? Yeah, it's a reality. And that's why companies that you represent, Martin, of course, they need to be much more in the spotlight, I think so, right?
And Martin, just picking up the point as well around you're obviously having to work a lot with property managers, with asset managers in terms of their data coming through to you, and that's also across both the investor and the occupier side. So where are they going to find efficiencies? What's going to help them? How is having a better view on their data, whether it's more timely, more efficient, how's that actually going to help them going forward?
Yeah, we have quite a lot of actual real cases with companies that we deal with. If you look at the classic investor where they've got the property manager, the fund accountant sending reports every month in PDF form, Excel form, it comes from Yardi, it comes from MRI, it comes from Oracle, SAP, blah, 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 blah. So what we found is that when they've been trying to, again, go back to normalisation of that data, it's taken 3 to 6 months to actually do it every month. So they're always that far behind. So they can never make actual real decisions on data because they're just so far behind all the time. So you've got to then try and streamline that process because it takes away the effort. It's cost them a fortune in just FTEs. You've got people in their office literally trying to turn PDFs to Excel sheets and trying to sort this data out, which is quite alien to them. And then next month, they upgrade their system, they change system or send a different report, and so what they've formulated before is now completely unusable. So that is where you need that efficiency to kind of take that problem away, because they've actually got the data. They're just taking forever to actually deal with it and actually get it into some sort of system. So by streamlining that process, that's a huge saving, an absolutely huge saving. And we work with a lot of companies to kind of deliver that. But then I'm going to come back to the AI piece as well, where you get that efficiency. We talk about cost. Now, I don't believe it's costly if it's done correctly. So, we talked about startups there. The problem with a startup utilising AI, as I said before, AI needs data to be trained. Simple as that. And so if you're a startup, you just don't have that data. Simple as that. So we're fortunate enough at NTrust, so we've been in business 20 years, we've abstracted 1.5 million leases in 100 countries, in 40 languages, and so we've got all that data. So the AI needs to be trained on that, and that makes it real, makes it something you can utilise. But a startup is going to find it really difficult, because if they don't have that data to train it, and they have to train it in real estate terms. You can't give it a Word document, a plain Word document, it won't understand. It needs to understand the intricacies of European, worldwide property language. And so you're always going to fail if you don't have that start point. So, but in saying that, it is cost effective. I think a lot of people think AI is a costly exercise, data is seen as a costly exercise. It isn't, it just isn't. It's actually just, AI actually makes it far more efficient for companies like ourselves to actually deliver solutions, because we don't need all the humans as we would done, say, 10 years ago. So we save probably 40-50% of time by just utilising AI. So it actually makes it more cost effective for our customers. Yeah. So it's something that people need to get it out of their heads, I think, that AI sounds great, I'm sure it's going to help us, but I can't afford it. That's not the case. You can afford it. It's a relatively cheap option.
Okay, good. The next part of this, so we're having a kind of hour and a half here on PropTech innovation, and we're going to look at, then drill down into sustainability and those kinds of areas, and the operational side, how we actually move those in and what it means. So that's the next session. Just finally on this one, if we're sitting here at Expo next year, where will we be? Will more people be using AI as a regular part of what they're doing? What's your sense of that? You kick that off, Martin, and then...
I would say 100%. Definitely people are going to be utilising AI more. There's no question. I think people are starting to understand the efficiencies of it. So at the moment, it still feels like a bit of a buzzword, but I don't believe that's the case. I think you're going to see real case studies where people gain real efficiencies. So in a year's time, it's going to be the norm, in my belief. It still needs to be developed, of course, and AI will continue to develop. In 20 years' time, if we're here, we're still talking about AI, and it still won't be perfect, because it isn't a human brain, so you have to continue training. But no, in 12 months' time, I think it will be more the norm than the not.
Okay, Thomas?
Yeah, it's a journey. AI is already there, and every look at your iPhone, every solution you are using uses already AI. I think next year we will be on the next stage, hopefully here, but on the development stage of AI, we will have more clarity on the use cases that are, and yeah, step by step increase the efficiency. It will not be the one big bang solution, but it's a journey, and we are on there, and next year we will be on the next level, I'm sure.
Okay, great. And this is all positive news for you as a data center investor, Lars. But
no, I'm totally convinced, and I see also much more demand now for AI product in our data center. So when you compare this, and this goes rather progressive, when you compare this year for year, the ask to make them also more efficient, also for AI eligible, is huge. So that's another big business that's coming down. And I'm not saying the next 10 years, I'm really saying the next year, the next year, the next year. So this is, I think it's also something that has to do with the next generations, obviously, right? So we are a generation that, so to say, got along with AI, but there are generations who were born with AI, so to say, and for them it's crystal clear. So, but I expect something the next 2-3 years that it's really picking much more up.
Okay, great. So very positive take on that. Look forward to seeing where we are next year, because it sounds as though we're going to see incremental growth year on year, and we'll be able to see more use cases being developed, which I think is interesting. We are going to say thank you to these fine speakers here now.